Welcome to another week in advance. How you doing tonight, Christopher?
Oh, really good. We've had amazingly beautiful weather here in the Midwest, which is always a bonus, and very wet summer unfolding for us. So we've got tomato plants that are the size of small trees now. It's a bountiful harvest on the horizon this year.
So it's been really wet. Yeah, I saw there was a storm that came through recently, right?
We've had pretty much like every 3 days, major storms moving through and bringing lightning and releasing nitrogen and replenishing the earth. So yes, it's turning out to be a beautiful summer.
Wow. That's definitely pretty intense, especially for the summer. I guess I'm just a spoiled little brat with my California, where it just is the same weather every day. It just never changes. It really doesn't.
Well, I will encourage people to get out. Hopefully, we'll have relatively cloudless nights over the next few days. And as we're watching this moon move toward fullness in that sign of Capricorn, the latter stages of the sun in Cancer, it's really worth going out and taking a look at the night sky because it truly is beautiful. And I was out earlier looking around and enjoying that graceful movement of the summer moon.
It's going to be a really powerful full moon that we got here. It's also beautiful looking in the skies because you can see Mars and Jupiter has been out. So it's been really nice to see all this stuff moving. And if you do have a telescope, you can even see Saturn in view there in Scorpio, really nice. So it's been really nice skies. And this is actually nice skies in the astrology now. The sun has finally come out of its square with Uranus and its opposition to Pluto, which is the Pluto-Uranus square, this kind of intense, dynamic, very, wild card, kind of extreme energy source. We're breaking free. Cancer's finally finding comforts. We're finally emotionally, I think, opening up the doors here, and we're getting ready for a full moon in Capricorn to start this weekend. And this one is big because I think it's time for some serious business. Yes, we might be on vacations for us in the Northern Hemisphere. Yes, down south, it's time for us to take things seriously. This full moon in Capricorn wants to go somewhere. Doesn't want to lay in bed, I'll tell you that. It definitely wants to put on the suit and tie and get some work done. And I think this weekend there could be a lot of work. I know I've got a lot of work on my plate. What about yourself? You're going to be working too, I guess, huh?
Oh yes, we're going to be traveling, heading in the direction of the great Southwest and getting ready to run around naked in the desert. But as we're watching this moon come into its process of, that completion of fullness, it is going to be very, very interactive with a lot of elements that have been a part of our ongoing transitions here. And the first thing I think we're going to notice is on Friday, Saturday, and actually probably the beginnings on Thursday, we're going to feel that influence as the moon approaches Pluto. And I think this is going to be that final kick that causes us to evaluate all of the Plutonian energy in that very solid Capricorn placement, because the old rules are definitely becoming very, very obsolete, and I think we're going to see where that is highlighted over this weekend, and are going to have to reformat the way we're approaching, the way we're doing business with ourselves and with those around us. So it's going to be a very significant full moon in that sense. I think that we'll see a certain amount of perhaps even criminal intent that gets highlighted during this season, because we're really going to contemplate how our laws are not always working and how they're not always functioning in our best interests. So it could be a very interesting political full moon passage over the next 4 or 5 days here.
Yeah, this is going to be a really positive one, I think. I think it's just getting people on track. Cancer, it definitely likes to stay on track, but it can definitely be very homey, and it can be very emotional. It can be very stuck, too. And we've got a huge ramp up in the astrology, including this week, as after this full moon happens, I think we have to understand what's coming ahead to understand why we're having this placement. We have Mercury going to come into Cancer and finish the retrograde shadow period finally this week, as Mercury will come back to that 2-degree mark when we're in retrograde and really start to blaze ahead forward. At the same time, we're going to have Jupiter coming to Leo, which hasn't happened for 12 years. So talk about a shifty week. Whew! This is it, a full moon on top of a Mercury coming home to where it went retrograde and about to really clear up a lot of these feelings and understand them. And then on top of it, Jupiter expanding the heart chakra now and moving into this fun element and this creativity. This is definitely some big sparks that are starting. So I think it's important this full moon to get serious, because there's something changing here in life, and I think you want to have your plans together. I think you want to look at, what are you doing in your life? It's not all vacation. I hate to say it. This is Pluto opposing the Sun in Cancer and Capricorn. I mean, we're just going to be stuck here. The universe doesn't want things to just be all live on your yacht on the beach. Like, it's just that life, for some reason, doesn't exist right now. There's too much work on the planet. There's too much going on,
Oh, exactly. And we're developing a higher level of sensitivity to our moral standards, how we're holding ourselves and others accountable. And again, that's very much been highlighted the last 10 years. And within the course of my life, I can go back and look at how everybody viewed people on the other side of the planet 50 years ago. And we have definitely, in the last 10 years, and especially at this time right now, we have gone through a huge transformation as far as recognizing that everybody does have the right to the same somewhat luxurious lifestyle that we in America have. So I think this is propelling us in a direction of rebooting the vision of what democracy is and how we're going to implement democracy for the greater collective. It's no longer tied into nationalism. All of a sudden, I think we're going to be thrusting forward and seeing, that advance of democratic ideals throughout the planet. But, David, one thing I thought was interesting was that this Mercury retrograde, because, even after Mercury had shifted and started to move direct, it was very, very sluggish. I think that until next week, we're still going to feel, in a lot of ways, like we're still under this Mercury retrograde, because it really had a hard time waking up once it started to turn around and advance out of Gemini. What do you think was the cause of that? Do you think the fact that Mercury had stopped in Cancer, moved back into Gemini, and then, turned around in Gemini, its natural home, is that what caused this extra sluggishness that we're observing right now?
I think that's just part of it. I think starting in Cancer is a very wet space. So it's already drenched wet, kind of pulled out, and knows it has to go back under, kind of like waterboarding. But, it's like, I think the other planets have more to do with this, because if we really look at the astrology, Mars has been on a long retrograde in direct motion, trying to catch up to get out of here, and that's adding to the sluggish energy. And on top of that, we're at Jupiter at the end of its transit. The whole universe is about to make huge shifting energy here. And I think the Mercury retrograde, because this one has been kind of hard, I'll be honest. Like, I have seen more communication problems. My phone has not been working that great. Like, this one has definitely been really, like, sluggish, like you said, in sleepy, hollow kind of energy, really sleepy. But I think a lot of it is Mars. And this is where the North Node is pointing. And this week, we finally have the Mars-North Node conjunction. So I think there's a lot around just masculine energy in action. And I think all the planets, because the North Node is conjuncting Mars, which, in my opinion, the North Node is everything. I think that really is the really, really powerful spot always in the chart. And that's where, Mars is. So it is highlighting action. And I think with retrogrades and, the Sun also came into the whole Pluto-Uranus square energy in the middle of the end of this retrograde, which is already kind of a cluster zone. So I think it's been a million things. And I think if we look at it, we're going to see one of the most extreme dynamic shifts in our life in these next couple weeks here. Just like, wham.
Yeah, I think you're definitely watching it amp up, and you know, we are going to see more of that energy being channeled from Mars over to Mercury, because it is in a nice tight trine yet, even though it's, you know, finally starting to separate. But the other thing that's interesting this coming week also, toward the end of the week, we're going to watch Venus flip over into Cancer, and Venus is not really that happy in air signs. Venus likes, you know, more of the atmosphere and more sensuality. So watching Venus enter into Cancer, I think, is going to also be very interesting, and I think a lot of relationships that may have been floundering or misdirected or whatever, you know, confusing elements that there have been in partnerships, I think we're going to start seeing that get sorted out now as Venus joins Mercury in that sign of Cancer, as the Sun and the Jupiter are moving into the sign of Leo.
Yeah, and if you look at us in space right now, Earth and Mercury and Venus, they're all kind of hanging out now in this little cycle process here. So, you know, if we kind of look at it in a funny way too, there's a lot of this energy, like it's kind of like, I always look at Earth and Venus and Mercury as kind of like the siblings, you know, they all get along, they're kind of all the same family. I think there was probably the most life on all these planets, but they're all kind of coming together here in Cancer, and they're all kind of, you know, really directing this energy towards, you know, like you said, bringing some sort of foundation or security and partnership. This is also the North Node in Libra finally finishing the Mars story, which Mars has been creeping over all of the energy where Saturn in Libra was, all in 2012 and 2011 and 10. So this huge, long relationship story that's been going on for years has finally, after the end of this month, completed all of its karmic story. The last thing is the North Node, which I kind of look at as kind of like the icing on the cake, like, or the packaging. We finally have finished the package tape. It's like we're sealing the deals here in relationships, and it's all going to be kind of moving into Scorpio, which is very different than relationships. I hate to say it. They can actually kind of mirror themselves very similarly, but Scorpio is much more intense. It's much more dynamic. It's much more about, you know, commitments and so forth. Doesn't mean that we can't have great partnerships, though. And I think you're right. I think Venus in Cancer and Mars leaving Libra here, which we're about to see here in the next week and a half, is really going to bring some of the most, I mean, I'll be honest, some of the most powerful relationship stuff we might have seen in a long time. This is where really people, you know, start to build some really great partnerships.
Exactly, and you know, as we continue to watch this activity ramping up in Cancer, and then we shift over and see Mars entering in Scorpio, that's going to bring our two happy planets up in Pisces online again. So we are going to be getting some surges from Neptune and Chiron. We're going to have to go back and address the fine-tuning of our spiritual identity, our spiritual journey, and the process of healing. And I know for myself, a couple of days ago, I, in fact, did a little bit of soul retrieval work with a friend of mine, and her name is Eve Crow. If anybody is looking for soul retrieval, look for Eve Crow on the internet. And I found that for me it was very cathartic. I had about a 24-hour period where I was really very uncomfortable because I was in a deep state of release. And I think that Chiron is going to continue to force us to confront those dark areas of our past, whether it's conscious past or past lifetimes, but the demand for healing is really amping up on a lot of different levels right now. And as Venus and Mars are getting active in this grand trine that will be playing itself out in water, we're going to see some really profound potential being presented to us.
This is, in my opinion, it's been a long time since we've had such profound potential be offered to humanity and to individuals in their lives. And But you know, it's not. It doesn't come easy because this Saturn Uranus in conjunct that's perfect. While they're both going to switch, direct and retrograde at in the same 24-hour period in an in conjunct, is almost mind blowing to me. That you know what? That Uranus and Aries wants dynamic change in how you approach things and how you take action on it. And that Saturn in Scorpio is real deep on the boundaries you lay, the truths that you set yourself in. And Uranus and Saturn don't get along great. And in a weird angle that they're trying to find a way to get along in a really weird way. And I always kind of look at it as a weird kind of, adjustments we have to make in our life. And these are powerful adjustments we're having to make where there's things to take serious, but there's things to rebel against. And they have to work in a very, very weird angle. And when it comes to truth and when it comes to courage and strength, these are areas that take a little bit of more concern to pay attention to as the potential is laid in front of us. That it's not going to just be easy, but if you're willing to put that work in and you're willing to try some really powerful new aspects in your life, could really, this is the stuff that dreams are made of, really, right here.
Oh, absolutely. It's interesting how an inconjunct works because when I was studying astrology more than just absorbing it and feeling it, I noticed that a lot of people defined an inconjunct as a configuration where there was an irreconcilable difference in the two elements. And I went along with that theory for a long time, but now as we're re-scripting this next wave of astrology and we're coming to a much more profound intuitive awakening as to what the meanings of the planets actually are, I've arrived at a point where I don't see anything as being unable to be reconciled. And I do think that you have to look at the nature of the planets in order to find the avenue to take to actually create the line of communication and to set up a process of negotiation and reconciliation in the energy flows. And so whenever I see Saturn, of course, everybody's heard me say this a million times, Saturn is a great teacher. Now, what that means is that in your chart and in your life, in order to learn, you have to teach. And in order to teach, you have to have learned from life's experiences. So I see this inconjunct that is going to be playing itself out between good old Saturn and Uranus as being a way of teaching reconciliation between elements that were unwilling to communicate in the past. And if we look at that within ourselves, Saturn is in Scorpio, the sign of the great protector, the sign of the boundary maker, teaching us about what are appropriate boundaries. And Uranus is over there in, the good old Aries, I am the ego, this is me on planet Earth, get out of my way. So there could be some real angst and some interior fireworks that people will be struggling with over this process. But I think that it's going to be a journey into a deeper level of perspective and a deeper comprehension of what the unconscious elements in our lives that are forcing us to do things are comprised of.
Yeah, that's really deep about where you're going with all this inconjunct energy. I think it's a fascinating subject, and it definitely, I don't think that there's laws or rules written for it. I think there's many ways to look at it. It's a very weird angle, but there's definitely a connection that needs to be made between the two, whether it's in a weird 150-degree angle or a 90-degree angle or a 0-degree angle. There's this aspect in our lives that the universe is pointing towards this great teacher and also pointing towards this great rebel at the same time to affect each other on the same day on the 21st and 22nd, or I think it's going to be the 20th and 21st on the West Coast. But, like on this side of the Earth. But, there's something happening here. And it's all happening in the middle of all the levers pulling in the universe and all the planet shifting. So There's definitely something being unearthed here. Saturn in Scorpio is the unearther, and this is the last week of Saturn's stationary position. So there's definitely this is also, I think, in my opinion, some of the deepest Scorpio work we've been doing, and because as we move on now, Saturn's actually going to move into Sagittarius when it goes retrograde next. So let's see where this all goes. I think a lot of people have got to the core issues in their life by now, and they're starting to understand the directions they got to take to overcome them and to receive more in their life more. You know, so this is definitely one of those weeks. And I mean, we didn't talk about it enough, but Jupiter in Leo is a big deal this week. It's been a long time, and Jupiter loves to be in Leo.
Exactly. And actually, you know, Saturn's not uncomfortable in Scorpio, and Saturn during this time will actually have some, you know, boundary issues as far as how Leo is presenting Jupiter's energy. So again, dynamic tension that can force growth, and yet it's still not building to any you know, real serious sparks, because in next year we'll see Saturn and Jupiter in trine to each other. So overall, we're building in a lot of very positive ways, immense amount of potential, and I think that Leo is going to be a break-free time for people pretty much throughout, you know, the inhabited part of the cosmos that we're participating in. I think Leo time is going to be a big breakthrough. I think Virgo time is going to be a period when a lot is accomplished, because Leo and Jupiter will be giving us a sense of we can do this. It's going to rebuild our optimism. So we're definitely on the threshold of some very exciting, dynamic moments.
Yes, very exciting.
Well, shall we take a look at a couple of cards?
Yes, I would love to.
Okay, first card up. Well, this full moon, you know, a lot of times full moons, they because of the interaction, you have the extreme polarity, and so I get cards that are kind of, you know, deep, profound, but this particular full moon that we're starting off with this weekend, we have Three of Cups. This is a card of rejoicing and celebration. And I think we also can factor the activity of Mercury into this too. I see it as receiving good news. So during the weekend, I think you're going to be getting positive feedback from people. I think that you're going to be feeling like the gang is, you know, unified once again. We're all starting out on a new page, but we have, you know, this new beginning that is giving allowance for positive change, positive transformation. Then on Sunday, Monday, we have got a huge surge of energy. Oh, wow, can't see this at all. There we go. That's the Ace of Rods, and very phallic, very much, you know, that fiery masculine energy. So we'll be starting off the week with a lot of robust energy, a lot of you know, wanting to break free of the last few months where we were being hampered by, you know, all these different elements that were holding us back, that were causing us to pay extra karma. Then as we move further into the week, we have the Eight of Rods, and look at that, good old Jupiter in the background, the expansive planet dominant in this energy. And the rods are fire, the rods are communication, the rods are stimulation. They will also come up as romance. So this coming week, again, as we see Venus preparing to flip over into Cancer, we could see romantic energy start to get on the upswing too. Toward the middle and moving toward the end of the week, well, this is Mars. So first thing that, you know, comes to mind with this Mars energy, the Emperor, is taking action. And of course, a lot of people, along with you and I, David, are going to be taking action and heading out for Sedona to get out in the desert and get down and do a little bit of party and philosophy and teaching and sharing and healing. And finally, as we end the week, an interesting card comes up, the Temperance card, which is, you know, all things in moderation, including moderation. So I think that this full moon is the advent of a party. I think the party is going to be around for the entire coming week, and I think by the time it's all over, a lot of people are going to feel like they finally were able to jump into the deep end of the swimming pool and clear themselves, and when they jump back on land, I think that they're going to feel a new level of vitality. So big week coming up.
It is a big week. I'm so happy you pulled the Ace of Rods. I think that was like my whole Jupiter moment. Like, I think a lot of people kind of get that feeling this weekend. And a lot of the cards, the Temperance card, I think at the end there is kind of signaling, you know, kind of wait for the sun to come into Leo and conjunct. And this is also kind of the moon after full. So even though there's things ramping up, I think it will be on the new moon in Leo. This is when, you know, we're going to see, I think, the biggest change hit. So I think the Temperance card is reminding us to let things create, let the universe adjust things. It's doing it all, and we're finally here. But there's lots of parts to this party, and to not lose yourself off the first second it opens the door.
Exactly. Well, it's going to be fun. I'll be seeing you in just a couple of days, and for all the people who are going to be connecting with us in Arizona, I think we're going to have an amazing set of experiences and some sharing and playing around in the vortexes and hopefully getting some good healing and revitalization going.
I can't wait to see you, Chris. It's going to be an honor, and I can't wait to hang out again, like hang out and do this and do a report for people out when we're out there. So it's just awesome. I'm so looking forward to it, and thank you for another great journey into the cosmos and beyond. And gosh, when we see everybody back here, there'll be so much that has already changed. So be ready, because you know we're here. This week definitely is, and it comes out of nowhere. This week comes out of nowhere. It's one of those things, you know.
Exactly. It's well, like I said before, it's our destiny. So seize the moment, embrace your destiny, and I'll see you in less than a week.
All right. Take care. I'll see you next week.
Okay. Bye.